Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and here we are with a very special Doom WOD. Almost a year ago now, a WOD was brought to my attention called Waist Deep in the Dead. Essentially, it is a E1 enhancement WOD, and it was created by Soul 7. Unfortunately, it is now 2016, and it's not finished. And so I'm sending an entreaty to you, Soul 7, please finish your WOD. It's very well made. And so now, let's jump right into it. Now we're playing Brutal Doom. Actually, we're gonna go, I just want to kill. I just want to kill! That way we don't die a lot. Yes, we're using Brutal Doom Redemption. Why? Because I recently discovered it, and I like it for one major reason. It has the... Oh yes, we're also running the high-res texture pack, where everything looks so bloody good. But unfortunately, we're also probably going to get a little bit of slowdown as well, as the textures have to load. But yes, Brutal Doom Redemption allows you to have a particular weapon, and also makes the enemies a little tougher, as you can see, which is pretty cool. Also, I'm going to put this on double ammo, because you never seem to have enough ammo. There's never enough ammo. You get this, the Doom 64 shotgun! I love the Doom 64 shotgun because I do like me some Doom 64. Now, this particular WOD sort of follows in the footsteps of Maps of Chaos and Knee Deep in Z-Doom, and also Doom 1 as well. Maps of Chaos is essentially a very slight enhancement WOD. Essentially, all it really does is add a few new areas to the various levels in Doom 1 and Doom 2. And it's really good. I've played it quite a bit. Doom 1 combines all the levels of Doom 1, at the very least, into a singular massive map. And you want to have something really cool, since this is still like an alpha or a beta or whatever the case may be. It's not even finished. It doesn't have it, but... Doom 1 has a teleport room, and what that does is if you die on, say, map 5, there's a teleporter room, or a teleporter alcove in the teleporter room that opens up. And you hop into that, and it'll take you right back to level 5 if you haven't saved. It's also really good for co-op, but co-op doesn't really work right with Doom 1. I don't really know how co-op works in this one, since it's not actually finished. I haven't played it co-op. But co-op doesn't really work that well with Doom 1, because when you reach a certain area in there, you need to go through a portal, a hexen portal. And unfortunately, it won't show up for the second player. It'll show up for the first player, they can go through it, but the second player can't. Now, there is a way around that. What you do is the first player goes through the hexen bits of Doom 1, and then they just jump through one of the portals to the next level, which works well, or the teleporter to the next level, which works well enough. But Doom 1's pretty good. It adds a few minor areas here and there. But this here just sort of combines the best elements of Doom 1 and Maps of Chaos, and even Knee Deep in Z-Doom. For those who haven't heard, Knee Deep in Z-Doom is essentially a modern-day remastering, so to speak, of Knee Deep in the Dead. Essentially, it's Knee Deep in the Dead with all sorts of modern enhancements via the Z-Doom engine, which was, I think, the most popular one at the time. It's an old mod from, like, 2005, I think. I cannot remember all of them. But it was really quite popular back in its day, and I really did enjoy it. It's one of my favorites, actually, of all time. But it does, you know, I can't think of the word right now. Ugh. It is so different from the original Knee Deep in the Dead that it is essentially almost its own thing. Which is not a bad thing, by any means. But this Waist Deep in the Dead just keeps it enough like it, but it adds in enough new changes that it just makes it so very much awesome. And various other words that I can't seem to be able to get out. Really, for me, my favorite Doom anything is still Knee Deep in the Dead, E1. E1 is my favorite of all time. Another aspect of Brutal Doom Redemption here that you might have just heard is whenever you find a secret area, the little da-da-da from Duke Nukem Forever plays. And that is cool, because while Duke Nukem Forever kind of failed, it did have some good presentation, and the little ego boost jingle was really cool. I enjoyed that. But yes, as you can see, Waste Team of the Dead has all sorts of new things to it, while still keeping true to the original, which I think is a major thing to do. Now, of course, you could just say, well, haven't you played E1 enough? Well, the thing is, E1 is so well done that you could just play it anytime, and it just doesn't get stale. And that, I think, is the best aspect of any well-made Doom mod, is that you can just pop it in. You don't have to think about it. And that's a mancubus. Now, see, this is not actually for Doom 1. This is actually a Doom 2 WOD. That's why we have some Doom 2 enemies right here. But that's one of the big problems with Doom mods in general. There's dozens of them out there. Oh yeah, and this also gives you a... This is a Berserk kind of thing. Brutal Doom Redemption is really quite advanced. I wouldn't say it's as advanced in some respects as, say, Project Brutality, but it does bring a lot to the table. My problem with this red vision, which looks pretty cool, is the fact that I always end up getting it right when I don't need it. Also, you get a pistol, which is cool. And you can punch people with F, but it doesn't seem to do much. Says I, as soon as I rip a guy in half. You know what? Fuck you, Doom. As you can see, also Project Brutality. Ugh. As you can see, also Brutal Doom Redemption here has some elements from one of the HUD WODs. You don't have the full HUD that you would get from that particular WOD, but you get enough of it. Also, flashlights, which is cool. I can't imagine how hard that was to actually get working. But see, it just adds enough little, gubbins here and there that it's just that much better. It makes an already good thing even better. It's like if you were somehow able to combine, pizza and a hamburger, or better yet, pizza and a cheesecake. And I know some of you guys probably don't like cheesecake, but cheesecake is by far my favorite of the cakes. Although, even though my birthday is coming up next week as of this recording, on February the 23rd, I'm actually not going to have a cheesecake this year, mainly because at Christmas I did not get my pumpkin pie. Why? Because my mother actually accidentally bought a chocolate pecan pie. Oh my good God. If you people like it, you can have it. I don't want no fucking chocolate pecan pie. That fucking shit is nasty. And I found out in the worst possible way, because like, ooh, pecan pie. Shall I partake? Get a big-ass piece, and just immediately go to eat a big-ass piece of it, just shove it in my fucking mouth. It's like, oh God, what is this shit? It is a big mouthful of chocolate pecan pie. And you know what? That could be so suggestive, but you know what? It's not. It's worse when it's still the pie. You just like, imagine pecan pie, that flavoring, with chocolate. Who the fuck comes up with this nasty shit? What is this, year like 10,000? And I say this because I'm reminded, quite surprisingly actually, of an episode of Doctor Who. And I'm not even a fan of Doctor Who. I don't like Doctor Who, but I remember seeing this one many years ago. Well, like, they were like in the year like 10,000, and like some character had like this cup that was supposed to be filled with some sort of liquid, right? Instead it was, the doctor says it's like liquidized pork. Delicious, I know. That'd almost be better than like chocolate pecan fucking pie. So for my birthday, I'm going to actually get my goddamn pecan pie. Because of all the pies, pecan pie is my personal favorite. But yes, an idea I had recently, because I'm not going to be doing Fallout 4 for a little while, simply because I really just want to get all the ideas percolating in my brain. Because I'll tell you this, as it stands right now, I don't really like Fallout 4. You guys hear it first, I don't like Fallout 4. For a moment, I thought it said Pecan 4. Because now I'm thinking about pecan pie. But anyway, with Pecan 4, there's a lot of problems with it. Now, these problems aren't necessarily that big a deal, because it's not that bad of a game. On the technical side of things, it's a good game. On my personal enjoyment side of things, it's not a good game. It's boring in some respects, and it's not because, where'd that guy go? It's boring in some respects. It's just not memorable. It just feels very dull to me. Overall, I just didn't find myself having that much fun with the whole thing. But I don't want to just come off when I'm doing the review that I'm just screaming about it. Because this isn't like Colonial Marines or anything like that. It's not that bad. And it's not like the most disappointing game I ever played. The most disappointing game I ever played was Colonial Marines. So, yeah. The big problem with Fallout 4 is they simplified it a little too much. Because, you know, some simplification is good. You don't want every game to be, you know, Daggerfall. And I really do respect Daggerfall. Daggerfall has a lot of elements in it that I would like to play in the modern era. But, you know, it's a little too complicated for fun. You know, or for me at least. It's a little too complicated for me. But you don't want to simplify it to the point where you don't feel like there's a lot of player agency in it. It's like, the age-old question is, if the game's going to play itself, why am I here? You know? And that's the thing. It's like, I just don't really feel like what I do matters all that much. And and basically the player character just doesn't have as much to say as I like him to say. I think, once again, it's because he can only record so many lines. And while it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, it wasn't as good as I think it should have been either. The thing is, I'm going to eventually say, and that way you guys don't get mad at me or think, yeah, General Lotz is on our side. It's not a bad game if you haven't ever played a Bethesda game before. In fact, you know, it might even get some people who might not like Bethesda games into Bethesda-style games. Because, well, it is a good gateway game into the rest of the Bethesda-style game genre, you know? But it's just not as complex as I'd like it to be. And, you know, the story wasn't bad, as everyone said it was, but it wasn't very good either. It's like, the game was okay, but it's like, you know, I can't even think of a good analogy. I guess it's gonna have to wait till the review for me to give you a good analogy of what it's like. Because, you know, the old adage of, like, a McDonald's hamburger, but, you know, McDonald's hamburger can be good. I'm trying to think of, like, something really generic, you know, because it is really generic, unfortunately. I think they just, they didn't go, I think ultimately they didn't go far enough. They did good work, but they didn't do enough of it, and that's sort of the problem. I think they were more focused on making Greatest Game of the Year 111 without, you know, making the game part. So, you know, we'll just have to see. I'm trying to decide when to do that review. There's definitely going to be some reviews of other things in the intervening time. I've been thinking about doing a top 13 Doom watch, but I found there's a problem. The big problem was I couldn't think of 13 Doom WADs that I liked. That's including gameplay enhancement WADs like this one here. It's just, when it comes to Doom WADs, there's a lot of shitty ones out there versus the good ones. That's sort of like, I think it's like Godwin's Law or something. See, look at the flashlight. Real quick. In dark areas, it really is quite the godsend. But, you know, I think Godwin's Law does kind of play into there where like 95% of anything is bad or something along those lines. And I don't like having that opinion, but in my experience, there's a lot of bad Doom WADs out there. It's where they don't really understand what makes Doom Doom. You know, Doom is supposed to be like this. It's one of the reasons why I love E1 so much. Doom, I think, is supposed to be a good run-and-gun shooter. Where you shoot enemies with a shotgun and you blow their faces off. That's what you do. And a lot of Doom WADs don't get that. They don't do that. They'll make it where the level design is really complex, where they'll use a lot of brown, like is the Xbox. And complex levels aren't bad. Knee Deep in Z-Doom is a very complex WAD. There's a lot going on there. But, unfortunately, some WADs just are obtuse, and they ultimately annoy me, and I don't ever finish them. And so when I was coming up with my top 13 Doom WADs, I was trying to determine, well, what WADs do I still play? What WADs have I finished? And I found there weren't as many as I'd like. And the thing is, E1 just is aesthetically pleasing. There's a lot of Doom WADs that just don't look good. And that might sound really shallow, but if I don't like what I'm playing, why am I playing it? if I have to force myself to enjoy something, I'm not really enjoying it. I'm just sort of going through the motion. So what Doom mod did I really like? You know? And I think one of my favorites to this day, well, I don't think it is, my favorite Doom level mod to this day is still Dark 7. Dark 7 is a Doom mod from 2002, so it's a fairly old one. Not that old, but still pretty old. And I like it because it has a lot of realistic styled locations. Like, you wouldn't really say that E1 is that realistic, but it does feel like a Mars base in a lot of ways. It doesn't just feel like game levels. To a point, I should say. I'm not going to say that it's the greatest thing 111. Well, actually, no. I take it back. I will say it's the greatest thing 111, because I think what E1 does, E1 basically is pretty much the first level that any Doomer will really think of when they think of Doom. Because it's one that a lot of us have played a lot. I think the reason why we play it a lot is because it doesn't get stale. It's just that good. So in some respects, you could say that E1 does for, you know, first-person shooters what the first level of Mario, World 1, does for literally every game ever. Because let's not forget that had it not been for Mario, you know, gaming might be very different from what it is today. And so, really, my favorite WADs are all E1 styled WADs, because I just like the way they look, I like the way they play. And Dark 7 basically combines both Doom and another game that's my favorite when it comes to first-person shooters, and that's Quake. Not Quake, but Quake 2, I should say. Quake also is one of my favorite first-person shooters as well, but I like Quake 2 more than Quake 1 simply because I kind of like the objective system a bit better, where you actually, you know, have some context for what you're doing. Not much context, but it's like, go shut off this thing, or go blow up this other thing. It's simple, but it works. Whereas with Doom, it's just get to an exit. So in Dark 7, it's go shut down this thing, go blow up something else, and Knee Deep in Z-Doom does that as well, and does it fairly well. Like, literally the first level of Knee Deep in Z-Doom, and I might do a Let's Play of that, because I have been playing some co-op Doom recently. I finally got that to work. But Knee Deep in Z-Doom does have objectives and does them well, and it gives you context. Knee Deep in Z-Doom is a completely different animal from Maps of Chaos or even this, but ultimately, combining run-and-gun gameplay with some good objectives is my favorite type of just turn-your-brain-off FPS. And really, when it comes to gaming, I think some of the best games are the turn-your-brain-off styled games. Because, like, AVP2, you know, Halo, I'm probably missing a lot of games that are my favorites, I just can't think of it right now, but games with a significant narrative are games that you can't just, like, throw into your system, whatever it may or may not be, and start playing, just randomly. Because you gotta be in the mood for a good story, or just a story in general. Whereas Doom here, I can play it at any time. And E1 especially, I can just play it at any time because it's just that easy to get into. Because it's just run and gun, I know where it's... Well, even if I don't remember where everything is in E1, it's still easy enough to figure out. And so, some of the big failings of other Doom mods is the fact that you can't easily figure out where you're supposed to go. Now, in a game like Hexen, that's fine. That's the proverbial bread and butter of it. And this is actually the last level, unfortunately. Look at how complex those maps are. Doom. It brings a tear to one's eye. But yes. When it comes to Doom, it really should be run and gun. You should not be running out of ammo all the time. You should not be really worried about turning a corner and dying instantly. Stuff like that. You should feel like a badass. And you don't really feel like a badass when you're dying every 2 feet. Now, you know, some games, you know, kind of, you're supposed to be a badass, but you don't feel like one, because, like, Blood does that. Blood is a very hard game. And I will review that. It's just, I've been lazy about it, and I don't want to go try to figure out how to make the screen resolution not look like crap, and all the rest of it. There isn't really a source port for Blood. There's a Doom mod that seeks to mimic Blood in a few respects, but that really isn't Blood. That's not the real experience, because Blood was built on the build engine, and the build engine's a bit more complex than the Doom engine. So, there is that. Blood is a pretty fun game, though. It's very aggravating, though, especially compared to Doom, because you have to save all the fucking time. Because if you don't, you'll die all the fucking time. Because the enemies do a lot of damage, there's never any ammo. But you know what? Doom is still... Blood is still a lot of fun, though. Blood is an interesting game that sadly has long since been forgotten, and we're actually at the very last part of the level. So, ultimately, next week is going to be my birthday, and so I'm looking forward to it. I'll eat me a lot of pecan pie, opening up a bunch of presents, and generally have a great deal of fun. As we all know, February 23rd is the holiest day of the year, and so it should turn out quite well, I should hope. And unfortunately, this magnificent Doom WAD comes to a close. Thank you for testing this WAD, but our princess is in another castle. And so, Soul 7, please finish this bloody thing. It's good. It's so well made. It's so exquisite. And so, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I must bid you a fond farewell. For I must go back to my... Hey, this opens up. Must go back to my everyday life. But I will leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen. I shall wish you good blood and good Shadow Warrior original, or whatever makes you happy.